It's playing?
Fine.
No, I think we're ready. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome Brice Sokolovsky from London, although originally born in France.
Yes.
I met Brice about 5 years ago. We did a seminar in London with Monsignor Schlag from Santa Croce and an English intellectual named Philip Booth, and we did a seminar on different practical virtues in finance. And I can't remember if you actually came to the seminar, but we met within the same group of people.
We went to dinner.
Went to dinner.
I didn't miss the best part.
Okay. So Brice caught up with me, and I welcomed him to share his practical wisdom. He's a fundraising expert, which is quite a rarity here in Europe. He's going to give us some advice, but also some kind of moral theological. We'll call that advice too. But it'll give some type of more theological perspective of what it means to be devoted to the church and support the church. So to be in tune with the church in terms of our aspirations and hopes for the church. But also he'll give us some practical wisdom on what actually is needed to bring in a healthy amount of finance to support the church. The title of our seminar is Raising Money for the Church, Challenges and Practical Wisdom. And without further ado, I'll turn over the word to Brice. Thank you very much.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Michael for inviting me to come speak with you all. As you notice, I'm recording this. It'll be available through my website, both as video and audio. So my objective in life pretty much is to help Catholics fundraise. The way I describe more or less my mission is my goal in life is to put as much money in the hands of saints because they know what to do with money. So if you give a saint $1 million check, they're gonna transform things. So my objective is to help them do that. So the fundraising workshop is called Challenges and Aspirations for Catholic and Charitable Enterprises. How is my speaking? First and foremost, I'm American. I was raised in the United States. I live in London. My mother's French, so I'm a child of the Universal Church, the way I describe it. And I have a Polish surname, so I have a bit of everything. So welcome. If you haven't heard about my website yet, please go visit it. It's catholicfundraiser.net, so it's a free online source for any type of content that I provide to organizations that I help, be it if you're a monastery, convent, institution, university, school, diocese, or parish. I try and put as much of the things that I do on this website, and if you have any questions, you can reach me through that. As well, I'm on Twitter at Brice Catholic. Brice is the French pronunciation of Bryce. And on Facebook, you can find me at Catholic Fundraiser. So the outcomes that I provide, I get my clients or the Catholic organizations that I work for, I really try and help them have a better perspective on fundraising. We all know that it can be an important part of what we do, so I try and make it as easy as possible. And so I try and help improve where they find donors, increase the amount of donors that they have, increase the money that they have, look at making more money raised year on year. So it's not just about raising money one year, but how do you make something sustainable so that you don't have to constantly move back and forth from mission to fundraising? Because that's one of the biggest challenges that I see with Catholic organizations is that they do great work, but then they have to take a pause because they finally realize that they don't have money, and they stop everything for maybe 3 months, 6 months, even sometimes a year, and then they raise it and then they go back, and they're oscillating back and forth. So I try and put fundraising at its kind of to support the mission so everyone stays focused on what they wanted to do in the first place. And have happier donors. Catholics are more than happy to donate, so it's trying to build, I guess, this relationship between benefactor and donor. So who am I? I coined myself an expert fundraiser. I'm passionate about my Catholic faith. I was raised Catholic all my life, so cradle Catholic to begin with, then just started asking the bigger questions in my 20s, kind of deviated from my work. I was working for a firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, that focuses on auditing. There you go. There's a fellow PwCer, I guess we could call us that. Then I took a few years ago, I did a master's degree in Christian theology to try and get my head around, what everyone was telling me is true. And so I'm blessed for that. And then I left PricewaterhouseCoopers and that work, and I went to go work for the Diocese of Westminster, helped them with their fundraising campaign. In about, I think, 4 to 5 years, they raised $60 million. Since then, I've left. I was the director of fundraising for a Christian think tank in London. I helped increase their fundraising income by 300%. And then today, through my website, CatholicFundraiser.net, I help over 400 Catholic organizations collectively raise over 100 million. So my mission is just to help as many people as possible. And I have a book coming out called Alms. So if you are in the mood of buying a book for Christmas, go on my website and you can join the waiting list. It's in its final edits. There's just a picture of me with Cardinal Vincent Nichols and the whole fundraising team. So I was one of many, but it was a great experience. I've been featured in the Catholic media to just give you a sense of who's been talking about me, who I've been working with in the United States with the National Catholic Register, the Catholic Herald in the United Kingdom. I don't know if some of you know about the Jennifer Fulwiler show in the United States, as well the blog Big Pulpit and Guadalupe Radio in the Southwest United States. And I've even been referenced in New Zealand and also Australia. So I'm very happy to see that my content is going out there. Just to give you a broad sense, I help all different kinds of organizations, so not just parishes or dioceses, but I'm really passionate about the pro-life movement, so I help a few organizations do that work as well. And then this is just a broad scope of some of my clients. It's kind of hard to read here, but this is all on my website. Then again, what people have been saying, it's just to say that I was quite happy that people were excited about me talking about fundraising. I thought, is anyone going to want to listen? But people have been very positive about what I'm saying, and I've just enjoyed helping people. So moving on, I want to talk about 3 things this evening. One, it's just looking at the challenges that we all face. It's to kind of put it in context, and at least what I've seen from a fundraising perspective. Second, just the aspirations, what we can look forward to, some of the tips that I'm going to provide on how to fundraise, and then the last is what I call my maybe you could call it my 10 commandments of fundraising, the 10 things that I think every Catholic should be doing if they want to be raising money. So step 1, kind of the challenges. Earlier this year, this movie won Best Motion Picture Spotlight, so it kind of looked into the negative side of the Catholic faith or the Catholic Church. But at the same time, I think it didn't just look at that, it looked at it from a broader perspective about the culture that allowed something like this happen. So some of the challenges that we face is that, from a PR perspective, that we have to face up to this. I know that in the 3 decades that I've been alive, it seems like the Catholic Church is always having to have some type of challenge that it's facing. But at the same time, I think the challenges are worldwide. So it's not just within the Catholic Church, but it's also outside. So we just have to recognize that this exists. Some of the other practical challenges is, at least in the UK where I am, charities are trusted less than supermarkets. So people are more likely to believe where they buy their food than a charity. Statistically, charities are the 12th most trusted institutions. Again, there's things that are happening within the Catholic Church. We also live in a very secular culture. In Britain, it's completely apparent now. Giving to charities as well has remained stagnant. You look at just, I guess if you look at the stock market, particularly in the United States, it just keeps growing and growing, even though we've had a few crashes. But giving to charities, if you compare it to what I call GDP growth, it's quite stagnant. Also, no one really teaches church leaders how to fundraise or how to ask for money, and Catholics are not really taught how to give. It's almost just all of this is assumed. And then last, Michael raised this as well, just everyone kind of assumes that their taxes and the government, will do this type of work, so why give extra? And also I would say there are spiritual challenges as well. Spirituality and faith has become very relative, so everyone kind of lives in their own bubble, and everyone's in their own journey. On top of that, money is quite taboo, so it's very difficult to talk about money at times, and money is looked to as being corrupt, and you look at capitalism, bad business, and greed, and charitable work is seen separate from all the other work. So you live in a world where a lot of people will do their work and they'll have their family and they'll have their normal life, but charity or faith life is something that they do primarily maybe on the weekends or just Sunday. So there are these huge divides through everything. And I just have this image of faith, we censor it, we don't talk about it. Money, we censor it, we don't talk about it. And charity, we censor it and we don't talk about it. And with fundraising, you combine all these three elements, and this is usually what happens. So a huge explosion. So it's just to recognize that this is the reality. It's, fundraising is not easy. But with that, there are a few things that you can do to be a better fundraiser, to speak to people and ask them for money. And I'm just going to look at one, how to attract people. So how to get somebody's attention with regards to money, and then how to attract 1 million people. So my theory is if you can do it for one person, you can do it for 1 million people. And then third is when to ask somebody for a donation. There's a right time to do it, and that means there's a wrong time to do it as well. So how to attract someone. So first and foremost, you have to understand what triggers someone to give. The great thing is everyone is created to give. God by nature is giving. So created in the image of God, we're already wired to give. So we don't really have to go and convince people to give, because they want to give. And with all the Catholics that I've spoken to and asked for donations, no one is ever telling me they don't want to give. They do want to give, they just want to give to the right person. So the reason someone gives has nothing to do with what you say or how you say it. They're going to give because you respond to something that's already within them. So the objective is to figure out what's inside of them. So I describe it as everyone has these three following characteristics. So everyone is struggling with something. They're worried about something. We can take, for example, the pro-life movement. Like, I'm worried about abortion in general. So that would be kind of the internal struggle that they have. The external struggle would be, I'm worried that, babies are being killed, and this is a serious problem. And then the third element is kind of if we don't do anything, this is going to be catastrophic. So we have to recognize the problem that people are facing, and in order to understand them, you have to understand the problem, and then you have to give them a plan. So it's not about talking to people about, you're pro-life and you want to fight against abortion, so do we. That's one element. You found the trigger point, but what you need to do further is to say, I have a plan that I think might help. So I just describe it as this. If you have a potential donor, so you're going to have a problem, and on the top you have you, the Catholic Church, or whatever organization that you have. A lot of organizations focus primarily on the problem, like help us fight against abortion, or help us evangelize, help us to be missionaries, help us to do this. That's not really what people want to hear, I guess, with regards to fundraising. If they're going to fund you, they want to know what plan you have. And it doesn't have to be super complex, but they have to really understand how are you going to solve the problem. Are you going to pray in front of abortion clinics? Are you going to have some type of way that to reach out to young women who find themselves in this kind of situation? But you have to be able to communicate the plan, and if you communicate the plan very well, you'll come into two scenarios. One, they'll recognize that you are the person that will help and success is the solution, or that they don't come into contact with you and they don't help you and everything fails. So there is no solution to their problem. So first and foremost is you have to focus on what your plan is, not the problem that you're facing or the problem that you're going to be solving. And if you can do this, you can really attract 1 million people. So people are attracted to charities who have a clear and logical plan that solves their problem. Now you might think your plan is clear to people. The great way is to figure out if your plan is clear is to tell somebody, is my plan clear? And if they say, no, it's not, that's okay. Just keep working at it until, people understand, okay, I know what you're doing and I get it. So if that one person gets it, everyone else is going to get it. So step one is to really clarify your plan and your message. And number two is to share it 365 days out of the year. A lot of charities will just share what they do on a Sunday. They'll just, in front of the pulpit, talk about what they do, and then Monday to Friday, they'll just kind of do the work. Well, Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, you have to be constantly sharing what you do, telling people this is what I do, and this is how I solve this problem. And the third way to reach 1 million people is you use technology. You use the internet, you use social media, you get everything that you do out there in the world. The great thing about Catholic media is they're always hungry for these kinds of stories. So share with the newspapers, the journals, anything that you can get your hands on, share with people what you're doing. On my website, I actually have a workbook that will help you do this step by step. And so, just to reiterate what I was talking about, focus on the action plan and speak about that. So don't just speak about yourself, don't speak about the problem, and don't speak about the donor, but talk about your plan and how it's going to shape and transform the world. And then the third part is, when should you ask a donor for money? So people give when they recognize you give them a valuable solution. So in fundraising, we have the mindset of looking for people to give to us. Well, Jesus is always saying it is better to give, it is better to give. And, there are constant stories where if you give, you receive, and you receive plentiful. Jesus was always giving, and, even I think St. Peter said, well, we've already given you our life, what are we going to get? And Jesus simply says, you don't need to worry. You're taken care of. So have the mindset of giving first before you ask. So my 7 ways of giving are: step 1, provide valuable information on what you're doing. 2, provide valuable references. So if there are other organizations that are doing things that you're similar to you, or if there's other content that you can share with people, do that. Provide valuable news. Connect people with people. We're here to connect. So share your network, share who you know. Have an open dialogue and share ideas and let other people talk. Be a trustworthy and reliable source. So this trust is something that you can give. And be passionate about your work. Most people are already this, but give your passion to other people. They're fueled by this. Again, check my website. I've got a workbook that can help walk you through these 7 actions. So just another visual. When you do these 7 things, you're ready to ask somebody for a donation. And they'll be more than happy to have this conversation. If you don't do these things, they'll be hesitant, they'll be reluctant, and you'll be a little hesitant as well. But if you're doing these things, you'll feel much more confident asking somebody for a donation. So part 3 is 10 practical steps to fundraising better. This is what I think everybody should be doing every week. and whether you do it for an hour or 10 hours or 10 minutes, it's up to you. But as long as you're doing these 10 things every week, you're going to be moving forward and you're going to be raising more money. I quote the Catechism, which I think that's a quote from Thomas Aquinas. So it's this concept of you have to be deliberate in your actions and persevere and repeat what you're doing. So again, fundraising isn't something that you do, 1 month out of the year or just on Sunday after Mass. It has to be underneath everything else that you're doing with your mission. So the first thing to do is you pray. Second, be grateful. So don't just thank people when they give you a donation. Thank them for attending an event. Thank them for sharing what you're doing, but always be grateful. Connect with people. So connect. Every donation that you ever get will be through the hands of somebody. So the more people you connect with, that means the more opportunities to get a donation. Fourth, organize meetings with a dream list. I didn't talk about a dream list tonight, but a dream list is pretty much a list of 100 people that you think can transform your organization. And this doesn't just have to be donations. This could be people who know other people, people who have knowledge in your field of work that can help you be better. But yeah, have a dream list. Again, on my website, if you go to catholicfundraiser.net, I have free resources on how to make a dream list. Organize one-to-one catch-up meetings. So, this is not just about asking for money. Just go out and speak to people and learn what they're doing and share what you're doing. Expand your community, which means don't just randomly meet people and then, walk away and never contact them again. Find ways of connecting with them, whether it's through your website, if you have an email subscription, if you have some type of communications that you have on a regular basis, connect them with that, so that way the dialogue always continues. Update and clean your contact database. So if you're a large or even small charitable organization, you should have a list of names. Keep scrubbing through and make sure that everybody's name is correct and their phone numbers are correct. There's nothing worse than to receive a letter in the mail or have an email and the organization misspells the name. They don't really feel pleased with that. So it's a bit tedious, but it's really, really beneficial. The eighth thing to do, again, give content, share ideas, just give. Ninth, attend events outside your organization, so we can be quite insular in what we're doing and think, what I'm doing is very important. It is, but at the same time, you have to look at it in the context of, the world that we live in. So learn what other people are doing, attend other events, and just get out there and speak to people. And last but not least, I wouldn't be a good fundraiser if I didn't say you have to ask. You can hope that people will donate. It's always great when they do, but at the same time, if you don't ask, you don't get. So check my website. I even have a workbook that describes the words that you use. There are certain words that you use when you ask somebody for money, and then there are certain words that you don't use when you ask somebody for money.
For example?
For example, like you never ask somebody, "Can you give me money?" It's a closed question, so that's yes or no. Or in England, they tend to say, "Would you like to give?" You say you always start with open questions. How about giving? Or what do you think of giving a donation to my charity? Or when could you give? That's a great one, because it automatically assumes they're going to give, but maybe not now, but in the near future. So always use open questions. So never say, "Can you give?" or even ask, "What can you give?" And open that dialogue where it's not just a yes and no immediate, but then you start getting into a dialogue about what they're thinking about. One of the great questions to ask is, what do you think of my organization and how do you think you could help us? And just have a dialogue about, maybe the person does want to give, maybe they don't. Maybe they want to give what you thought was, maybe you thought they could give I don't know, $10,000 or $1,000 or $10, but in reality, they might want to give more. They might want to give less. But if you have open questions, you'll enter a dialogue with somebody, and that's what you want to get at.